The morning sky over Seoul turned red before anyone understood what was happening. Commander Kang Tae was drinking his coffee in the military command center when the first alarm screamed to life. He dropped his cup and ran to the main screen. What he saw made his blood freeze. Hundreds of ships filled the sky. They were not human ships. They were massive, dark, and covered in weapons. The alien vessels hung in the atmosphere like metal mountains, blotting out the sun. Kang Tae grabbed his radio and shouted orders, but he was already too late. The first beam of energy struck downtown, Seoul. The blast was so bright that people across the city had to cover their eyes. When the light faded, an entire district was gone. Just gone. Where thousands of buildings had stood moments before, there was now only burning rubble and a crater half a mile wide. Kang Tae felt his heart hammering in his chest. He had trained his whole life for war, but nothing prepared him for this. The alien ships fired again and again. Each blast destroyed entire neighborhoods. The defense satellites around Earth tried to fight back, but the enemy weapons tore through them like paper. Dr. Yuna Park was underground in her laboratory in the Rocky Mountains when the attack began. She was working on a new quantum weapon project that the military thought might never be needed. The emergency alert made her computer screen flash red. She pulled up the news feeds and watched in horror as cities around the world burned. New York was hit next. Then Mumbai. São Paulo followed. Lagos. Shanghai. Every major city on Earth was being targeted at the same time. The aliens were not trying to conquer. They were trying to kill everyone. Yuna's hands shook as she watched. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but she knew her weapon project was now humanity's only hope. She locked down the laboratory and called her team. They had to work faster than ever before. Captain Han Bin commanded one of Earth's warships in orbit around Mars. His ship, the Retribution, was one of 12 vessels that survived the first wave of attacks. The rest of the human fleet was destroyed so quickly that most crews never even saw what killed them. Han Bin watched the feed from Earth. His home planet was dying. The alien fleet was massive, more than 300 ships. His 12 vessels could barely dent that force. But he refused to give up. He gathered the surviving captains on a secure channel. "We cannot save Earth from here," Han Bin said, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. "But we can make them pay for every kilometer they take. We hit and run. We learn their weaknesses. We make them regret coming here." The other captains agreed. They knew it was almost suicide, but they were humans. Running away was not in their nature. Back in Seoul, Kang Tae had moved his command center into the underground transit tunnels beneath the burning city. The government buildings were destroyed. Most of the military leadership was dead. He was one of the highest-ranking officers left alive. Survivors were flooding into the tunnels, thousands of them, burned and bleeding and terrified. A young analyst named Hai Choi ran up to Kang Tae. She was carrying a laptop and looked like she had not slept in days, even though only 6 hours had passed since the attack began. "Sir, I have intercepted some of their communications," Hai said, her voice shaking. "I have been able to translate parts of it." Kang Tae grabbed the laptop. The alien language looked like nothing he had ever seen, but Hai had managed to decode enough to understand the basic message. His face went pale as he read. "They call themselves the Vrex Empire," Hai explained. "They have conquered 23 other species. They always attack emerging civilizations before those civilizations become strong enough to threaten them. They think we will surrender like the others did." Kang Tae looked around at the people in the tunnel. Children were crying. Mothers held their wounded sons. Old men sat in shock, staring at nothing. The entire world was burning. 800 million people were already dead, and the count was still rising. "Do we have any contact with other governments?" Kang Tae asked. Yes, sir. The quantum communication network is still working. Every nation that still has leadership is connected. Get me on the line with all of them. 10 minutes later, Kang Tae was speaking to the leaders of every surviving nation on Earth. The American president was calling from an underground bunker. The Chinese premier was in a similar shelter. The Indian prime minister had evacuated to a mountain fortress. They were all asking the same question. Should they surrender? The Vrex have sent us a message, the European chancellor said. They demand our complete surrender. If we submit, they will spare 10% of our population as workers. If we refuse, they will kill everyone. The line went silent. 10% meant over 1 billion people would live. But it also meant 11 billion would die, and the survivors would be slaves. What do you think, Commander Kang? The American president asked. You are on the ground in one of the worst hit areas. What is your assessment? Kang Tae looked at the people around him in the tunnel. A little girl was holding her mother's hand, her eyes wide with fear. An old man was bandaging a wounded soldier. A group of teenagers were distributing water and food to the refugees. They were scared, but they had not given up. They were still fighting to help each other. I think we tell them no, Kang Tae said quietly. Commander, they will kill us all, the chancellor said. Maybe, Kang Tae replied. But I would rather die fighting than live as a slave. Humans have never been good at kneeling. I do not think we should start now. One by one, the other leaders agreed. The vote was unanimous. Earth would fight. The American president composed the response message. It was only 3 words long, but those 3 words would echo through history. Come and take it. The Vrex received the message and laughed. They had heard defiance before from other species. It always ended the same way. They began landing their ground troops, expecting a quick victory. What they did not know was that humans were different from every other species they had conquered. Humans came from a death world, a planet that had tried to kill them for millions of years. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and their own worst instincts. They had clawed their way to the top of their food chain through sheer stubborn will. The Vrex were about to learn a hard lesson. They had attacked Earth first. That was their biggest mistake. As the alien landing craft descended on Seoul, Kang Tae loaded his weapon and walked toward the surface. Behind him, thousands of survivors did the same. They were scared. Many of them would die. But they were humans, and humans do not surrender. The Vrex soldiers landed in the ruins of Seoul expecting broken, defeated enemies. What they found instead were humans who had turned every street into a killing ground. Lieutenant Jin Huang crouched behind a collapsed building with 5 other soldiers. They watched the alien troops march through the rubble. The Vrex were tall, almost 7 feet, with thick armor and powerful energy weapons. Each one looked like it could kill a dozen humans without effort. Jin waited until the aliens were in the middle of the street. Then he pressed the detonator. The entire block exploded. Buildings that were already damaged collapsed on the Vrex troops. The aliens scrambled and fired blindly into the dust. Jin and his team were already gone, running through underground tunnels to their next position. This was how humans fought. They did not line up and face the enemy like proper soldiers. They hid, they ambushed, they used every dirty trick they could think of. The Vrex had superior technology, but humans had something better. They knew how to make the enemy bleed. Commander Kang Tae coordinated the defense from his underground command post. Reports came in from around the world. The pattern was the same everywhere. The Vrex expected quick victories. Instead, they found that taking a single city block cost them dozens of soldiers. Sir, we have new intelligence from Hai, an aide said. Rushing to Kang Tae's desk, Hai Choi had been working non-stop. intercepting and translating Vrex communications. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were sharp. The Vrex commanders are confused, I explained. They keep asking each other why we have not surrendered yet. According to their records, every other species they conquered gave up within a week of the initial attack. What makes humans different? Kang Te asked. I think it is because we are angry, Hai said simply. Other species became afraid and stopped fighting. Humans become more determined. Every person we lose makes the survivors fight harder. The Vrex do not understand that. Kang Te nodded. It was true. The more the Vrex hurt them, the angrier humans became. Surrender was not even discussed anymore. The only question was how to kill more of the enemy in the mountains. Dr. Yuna Park worked 20 hours a day on her quantum weapon. Her team had been trying to crack Vrex shield technology. The alien shields could stop almost any attack, but Yuna thought she had found a weakness. The shields work by bending space around the ship, Yuna explained to her assistant. But quantum particles do not care about bent space. If we can create a quantum destruction field, their shields will collapse. How long until we have a working prototype? Her assistant asked. 2 weeks if we are lucky. 3 if we are not. The Vrex will control most of Earth in 3 weeks. Then we better be lucky, Yuna said. Turning back to her work up in space, Captain Han Bin was proving that humans could fight in the void as well as on land. His small fleet had been attacking Vrex supply lines for weeks. The aliens kept sending ships to catch him, but Han Bin was always somewhere else. He studied every battle, learning how Vrex ships moved and fought. He noticed that their massive warships were powerful but slow to turn. He noticed that their shields had to drop for a split second when they fired their weapons. He noticed patterns in how their commanders thought. Han Bin used all of this knowledge. His ships were smaller and faster. He would appear, fire everything at one target, and disappear before the Vrex could respond. One ship at a time, he was bleeding the Vrex fleet. On Earth, a civilian engineer named Narration was doing something remarkable. Her factory had been destroyed in the initial attack, but the machines still worked. She gathered other survivors and taught them how to turn industrial equipment into weapons. This cutting laser is designed for metal work, Nari explained to a group of refugees. But if we increase the power and add a focusing array, it becomes a weapon that can cut through Vrex armor. Soon, factories across Earth were producing improvised weapons. They were crude compared to military gear, but they worked. The Vrex started taking casualties from people they thought were just helpless civilians. 4 months into the war, the Vrex captured one of their own soldiers who had been wounded and left behind. Hai Choi was brought in to interrogate him. She had learned enough Vrex language to have a conversation. The alien soldier was terrified. His hands shook as Hai questioned him. She found this strange. The Vrex seemed so confident and powerful. Why was this one so scared? Your people are Deathworlders, the soldier finally said. We did not know. We thought Earth was a normal planet. What is a Deathworlder? Hai asked. The soldier explained that the galaxy rated planets by how dangerous they were. Most civilized species came from Class 3 or Class 4 worlds, planets where life was relatively safe and comfortable. These species never had to evolve extreme survival traits. Earth was a Class 12 death world. The gravity was high. The weather was violent. The planet had ice ages and supervolcanoes and mass extinctions. Worse, it was full of predators and diseases and plants that could kill you. Any species that survived on Earth had to become incredibly tough. You hunt for sport, the soldier said, his voice shaking. You climb mountains and explore caves and swim with predators just for fun. You eat poison plants because you like the taste. You are apex predators from a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill you. And you have the audacity to think this is normal. Hai reported this conversation to Kong Tae. It explained a lot. Humans could survive in conditions that would kill most aliens. Humans could endure pain and keep fighting when others would collapse. Humans had spent their entire evolution learning to hunt, to track, to kill, and to survive. The Vrex had picked a fight with one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They just had not known it. Dr. Yuna Park completed her quantum weapon prototype ahead of schedule. The first test was successful. The weapon created a field that collapsed Vrex shields almost instantly. She immediately sent the plans to every remaining military base on Earth. "We call it the Jengsin device," Yuna told Commander Kong Tae over the comm. "It means spirit. The spirit of humanity." Within days, human forces were retrofitting the Jengsin device onto every weapon they had. Tanks, ships, even infantry units got portable versions. The battlefield started to change. Vrex forces that had been nearly invincible were suddenly vulnerable. Lieutenant Jin Wang led the first successful assault on a Vrex command post using the new technology. His team hit the base at night, collapsed their shields, and destroyed the entire facility before reinforcements could arrive. Jin became a legend among human forces. Soldiers started calling him the Ghost because he seemed to appear and disappear like smoke. The Vrex Empire sent more reports back to their homeworld. The war was not going as planned. They controlled less than 30% of Earth after 4 months of fighting. They had lost 40% of their invasion force. The humans were not surrendering. They were getting stronger. The Vrex Emperor made a decision. He would send the second fleet to Earth. This fleet was 3 times larger than the first. It would crush the humans once and for all. When Hai intercepted the communications about the second fleet, she brought the news to Kong Tae. He called a meeting of all military leaders. "They are sending more ships," Kong Tae told them. Many more ships. The room was quiet. They had barely survived the first fleet. How could they fight an enemy 3 times larger? "We have one advantage," Captain Han Bin said. He had returned to Earth for the meeting. "They still do not understand us. They think we will break eventually. They do not realize that humans do not break. We bend, we adapt, but we do not break. What do you propose?" Kong Tae asked. "We go after them before they reach Earth. My fleet is ready. We know their ships now. We know how they think. Let me take the fight to them." It was a desperate plan. Han Bin's fleet was still only 40 ships, including captured Vrex vessels. But Kong Tae approved it. Desperate times called for desperate actions. As Han Bin prepared to leave Earth, he looked down at the planet from orbit. His home was scarred and burning, but it was still fighting. The lights of human cities flickered in the darkness. Every light was an act of defiance, a middle finger to the enemy that thought they could destroy humanity. Han Bin smiled. The Vrex second fleet was coming, but they were going to get a surprise. Humans were done playing defense. It was time to show these aliens what humans could really do. Captain Han Bin's fleet jumped into deep space halfway between Earth and the approaching Vrex second fleet. His ships spread out in a wide formation. Hiding among the asteroids and debris that floated in the dark. They waited like predators in tall grass. The Vrex second fleet came through exactly where Hai's intelligence said they would. 300 massive warships, confident and powerful, moving in tight formation toward Earth. They expected an easy journey. They had no idea humans were already there. Han Bin gave the signal. 40 human ships appeared from nowhere and fired everything they had at the lead Vrex vessels. The Jengsin quantum devices collapsed the alien shields in seconds. Human missiles and railguns tore into hulls that thought they were safe. 5 Vrex ships exploded before they even knew they were under attack. And Han Bin did something the Vrex never expected. He did not stay to fight. His fleet scattered in 40 different directions and jumped away to random coordinates. The Vrex tried to chase them, but the human ships were already gone. This became the pattern. The Vrex fleet would continue toward Earth, and Han Bin would appear from a new direction, kill a few ships, and vanish. The Vrex could not predict where he would strike next. Their admiral started to lose sleep, jumping at every sensor ghost, seeing human ambushes everywhere. By the time the second fleet reached Earth's solar system, it had lost 70 ships. The admiral was furious and terrified. The humans were supposed to be defeated. Instead, they were hunting his fleet like wolves bringing down a deer. On Earth, the ground war had changed completely. General Kong Tae had been promoted after his brilliant defense of Seoul. Now he was planning something that no one thought possible. He was going to take the fight to Vrex territory. We have identified 3 Vrex military bases within 50 light years of Earth, Kong Tae explained to his officers. These bases supply and support their operations. If we destroy them, the Vrex forces on Earth will be cut off. How do we even get there, sir? An officer asked. We do not have enough ships. We do now, Kang Tae smiled. Captain Han Bin has been very busy. We have captured enough Vrex ships to form a strike force. We can use their own vessels against them. Lieutenant Jin Wang volunteered to lead the ground forces for this mission. His reputation had grown so large that soldiers fought for the honor of serving in his unit. They called themselves the Shadow Corps, and they specialized in impossible missions. Jin's younger brother, Commander Wu Tae, would lead the first boarding actions. Wu had studied Vrex ship designs and knew exactly where to hit them. He trained his Marines in zero-gravity combat and Vrex fighting techniques. They would board enemy vessels, kill the crews, and take the ships intact. The first strike force left Earth with 30 captured Vrex ships and 20 human vessels. To Vrex sensors, they looked like a normal supply convoy. By the time the enemy realized these were human ships, it was too late. They hit the first Vrex base like a hammer. Jin Huang's forces landed on the station and moved through it like ghosts, killing silently and efficiently. Wu Tae's Marines captured 3 more Vrex ships that tried to escape. The base was destroyed within 6 hours. News of the attack shocked the galaxy. Other alien species that had been watching the war from the sidelines suddenly started paying attention. The humans were not just defending anymore. They were attacking deep into Vrex space. No conquered species had ever done that before. A diplomat named Yoon Kim saw an opportunity. She had been working to unite Earth's surviving governments into a single entity called the Terran Union. Now she reached out to other species. The Vrex have conquered 23 civilizations. Yoon broadcast across the galaxy. They came to my world with fire and death. They thought we would kneel like the others. But humanity does not kneel. We fought back. We are still fighting. And we are winning. She paused, letting her words sink in. If humans can resist the Vrex, so can you. Join us. Fight with us. Together, we can end their empire forever. 3 species responded immediately. They had been conquered by the Vrex decades ago and forced to serve the empire. They had never forgotten their freedom. With human success as inspiration, they declared war on their former masters. The Vrex Empire suddenly found itself fighting on multiple fronts. Rebellions broke out on conquered worlds. Supply lines were attacked by former slaves. The empire that had seemed invincible was starting to crack. On Earth, a surgeon named Rena Lee had become famous for her work in the makeshift hospitals. She saved thousands of lives with limited supplies and no proper facilities. Soldiers who should have died survived because of her skill. She worked 30-hour shifts without complaint, always with a smile for her patients. Rena represented something important to humans. Despite all the death and destruction, they had not lost their humanity. They still cared for their wounded. They still protected their children. They still helped each other. The war had made them hard, but not cruel. General Kang Tae made sure the Vrex knew about people like Rena. He broadcast messages showing human hospitals, human schools, human families working together. The message was clear. You can hurt us, but you cannot break what makes us human. The psychological war was just as important as the shooting war. The Vrex started to realize they were not fighting soldiers. They were fighting an entire species that refused to die. Captain Han Bin led a daring raid on a Vrex shipyard. His fleet jumped in, destroyed half the ships under construction, and jumped out before reinforcements arrived. The Vrex could not believe humans could strike so deep into their territory. They started pulling ships back to defend their core worlds. This was exactly what Kang Tae wanted. Every ship the Vrex pulled back was one less ship attacking Earth. The pressure on the homeworld decreased. Human forces started pushing the Vrex back, kilometer by kilometer. Narration continued her work turning civilian technology into weapons. Her greatest achievement was retrofitting captured Vrex power cores into human tanks. The hybrid vehicles were faster and more powerful than anything either side had fielded before. Choi's intelligence network had grown enormous. She had agents on multiple worlds, some of them aliens who hated the Vrex. She knew enemy ship movements before the Vrex admirals did. Her information saved thousands of human lives and ended thousands of Vrex ones. The war dragged into its second year. Both sides were exhausted, but the Vrex were starting to break first. Their society had never experienced real resistance before. They did not know how to handle an enemy that would not quit. The Galactic Council, an organization of peaceful species that normally avoided conflicts, finally sent a delegation to meet with both sides. They demanded a ceasefire. General Kang Tae met with the council representatives. They were shocked at what they found. They expected to meet with a desperate, defeated leader begging for help. Instead, they found a calm, confident general who was planning his next attack. Why should we stop now? Kang Tae asked them. The Vrex came to exterminate us. They killed over 1 billion of my people. They destroyed our cities. They tried to break our spirit. And you want us to forgive that? We want to prevent more death, the council leader said. There is only one way to prevent more death, Kang Tae replied. Make the Vrex incapable of attacking anyone ever again. We will stop when they are defeated. Not before. The council representatives left knowing they had witnessed something historic. Humanity was not going to stop. The Vrex had created an enemy that would chase them to the end of the galaxy if necessary. The Vrex Emperor received all these reports in his palace on the homeworld. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. The humans were coming. They were destroying his fleets, liberating his conquered worlds, and turning his own subjects against him. He sent a secret message to General Kang Tae, offering to discuss peace terms. The message was simple. What would it take for humanity to stop their advance? Kang Tae's response was delivered in perfect Vrex language. Hai had taught him the proper grammar and formal phrasing. The translation was, You brought this war to our home. You killed our families. You burned our cities. Now we are bringing the war to yours. There are no terms. There is only victory or death. Choose wisely. The message ended with human ships jumping into Vrex space, heading straight for their capital world. The final battle was about to begin. The Vrex homeworld, Vrexia Prime, had never been attacked in its 3,000-year history. The planet was protected by the most powerful military in the galaxy. Massive defense stations orbited above it, and a planetary shield covered the entire surface. The Vrex thought their capital was untouchable. They were about to learn they were wrong. General Kang Tae stood on the bridge of the flagship Phoenix. looking at the holographic display of Rexia Prime. Around him, 250 ships formed up in attack formation. Half were human vessels. The other half belonged to the 6 alien species who had joined the war against the Vrex. "This is it," Kong Tae said to his officers. "Everything we have fought for comes down to this battle. The Vrex must surrender, or we will make sure they can never threaten anyone again." Admiral Han Bin commanded the naval forces from his ship, the Retribution. He had spent 2 years learning Vrex tactics. He knew their formations, their weaknesses, their patterns. Today, he would use all that knowledge. "All ships, this is Admiral Han Bin. Remember what they did to Earth. Remember the billion people who died. Make them pay for every single one." The human fleet charged forward. The Vrex defense stations opened fire immediately. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the fleets. Ships exploded on both sides. The void lit up with fire and death. But the humans had one crucial advantage. Dr. Yuna Park was with the fleet, and she had brought her latest version of the Jensing quantum device. This one was powerful enough to disrupt the planetary shield itself. "Target the main shield generator," Yuna directed from her science vessel. "We only get one shot at this. Make it count." 3 human battleships focused all their power into Yuna's device. A wave of quantum energy shot toward the planet. The Vrex shield flickered, wavered, and then collapsed in one section. The gap was small, but it was enough. All forces through the gap now. Kang Tae ordered. Jin Huang and his shadow corps were among the first troops to land on Vrexia Prime. They dropped from orbit in armored pods, crashing through the atmosphere like meteors. The Vrex military was waiting for them, but the humans had trained for this moment. The battle in the capital city was brutal. The Vrex were fighting for their homeworld with desperate courage. But humans were fighting for revenge, and revenge made them unstoppable. Jin led his forces through the streets, clearing buildings one at a time. High above, the space battle continued. Admiral Han Bin had split his fleet into 3 groups. One attacked the defense stations head-on. Another circled around and hit them from behind. The 3rd group protected the troop transports landing on the planet. The Vrex had more ships, but Han Bin was the better tactician. He used their numbers against them, forcing Vrex ships to get in each other's way. When the enemy tried to form up, he would hit them from an unexpected angle. It was like watching a master chess player defeat a computer by being unpredictable. Commander Wu Tae led a daring boarding action on a Vrex command ship. His Marines cut through the hull and fought their way to the bridge. The Vrex crew fought hard, but Marines trained by humans in close combat were nearly impossible to stop. Wu captured the ship and turned its weapons on the rest of the Vrex fleet. On the planet, Hai Choi was using her electronic warfare skills to hack into Vrex communication networks. She found the location of the Emperor's palace and sent it to Jin Huang. She also discovered something terrifying. The Emperor had a doomsday weapon hidden beneath the palace. A nova bomb powerful enough to destroy the entire star system. "General Kong, the Emperor has a planet killer," Hai reported. "If he thinks he is going to lose, he will use it." Kang Tae felt his blood run cold. The weapon would kill everyone, humans and Vrex alike. They had to disable it before the Emperor could activate it. "Jin, can you get to the palace?" Kang Tae asked over the comm. "Already on my way, sir," Jin replied. "Give me 30 minutes. Those were the longest 30 minutes of Kang Tae's life. The space battle was going their way, but slowly. The Vrex were still fighting hard. On the planet, human forces were pushing toward the palace, but facing heavy resistance. Jin and his team reached the palace ahead of schedule. They fought through the Emperor's elite guards, taking casualties but never stopping. Jin himself was wounded twice, but refused to slow down. they found the Emperor in his throne room, standing over a control panel. His finger was hovering over a button. "Stop or I destroy everything," the Emperor said in broken human language. "You cannot win. No one wins." Jin raised his weapon, but did not fire. If he killed the Emperor now, the alien's hand might fall on the button by accident. "You already lost," Jin said. "Your fleet is beaten. Your empire is broken. Killing everyone now just proves humans were right about you all along." "You are Deathworlders," the Emperor spat. "Monsters from a hell planet. You will never stop fighting. Better to die than submit to creatures like you." "We did not want this war," Jin said quietly. "You came to us. You killed our families. We only did what we had to do to survive. If we are monsters, you made us this way." The Emperor's finger moved toward the button. Jin could not shoot in time. This was it. They were all going to die. But then Hai Choi's voice came through the com. "Bomb disabled. I hacked their system. He cannot activate it anymore." The Emperor pressed the button. Nothing happened. He pressed it again and again, his face turning purple with rage. Jin shot the control panel, destroying it completely. "It is over," Jin said. "Surrender." The Emperor collapsed into his throne, defeated. His empire was gone. His people were beaten. Everything he had built over centuries was destroyed by a species he had thought were primitives. General Kang Te came to the throne room an hour later. The battle was over. The Vrex fleet had surrendered after their emperor's capture. The war that had lasted 2 years and 3 months was finally finished. Kang Te stood before the emperor. The alien looked old and broken now. All his pride and power had vanished. "Do you know why you lost?" Kang Te asked. "Because you are Deathworlders," the emperor said bitterly. "No, you lost because you did not understand what you were attacking. Humans protect what they love. When you threatened our home, you gave us no choice. We became what we needed to become to survive." Kang Te pulled out a data pad. "These are the terms of surrender. The Vrex Empire is dissolved. All conquered worlds are freed. Your military is disbanded. Your worlds are demilitarized. You will pay reparations for 100 years. And most important, the Vrex are forbidden from any military action for 5 generations. You are destroying us," the emperor said. "No, we are making sure you never do to another species what you tried to do to. You," Kang Te leaned closer, "you came to my world with fire. You killed my people. You tried to break us. But we are humans. We do not break." He straightened up and looked at the broken emperor one last time. "You are right to fear us. You just did not fear us enough. Remember this moment. Remember that humanity will never kneel. And if you ever threaten us again, we will not stop until every last one of you is dust." The trial of the Vrex Emperor began 1 month later. He was charged with genocide, war crimes, and crimes against sapient beings. The trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched as the once mighty emperor stood in chains, judged by the very species he had tried to exterminate. He was found guilty on all charges. His sentence was life imprisonment on a human-monitored station, where he would spend the rest of his days thinking about his mistakes. As the trial ended, General Kang Te looked up at the stars. 1.2 billion humans had died in the war. Earth was scarred. Entire cities were gone. But humanity had survived. Against all odds, they had won. The galaxy would never forget what happened. The Vrex had attacked Earth first, thinking humans would be easy prey. Instead, humanity had shattered an empire and freed dozens of worlds. The message was clear. Humans were not to be trifled with. Attack Earth, and the consequences would be terrible. 10 years had passed since the war ended. Seoul had been rebuilt, more beautiful than before. The scars were still there if you knew where to look, but the city was alive again. Children played in parks where battle had once raged. Markets bustled where ruins had stood. Life had returned to Earth. General Kang Tae was no longer a general. He had retired 5 years ago and now taught military strategy at the Seoul Military Academy. His right arm was gone, lost in the final battle on Vrexia Prime. He had refused the prosthetic replacements the doctors offered. The missing arm was a reminder. War had a cost, and he wanted young soldiers to remember that. Today, he was teaching a class of cadets about the Vrex War. They were all born after the invasion. To them, the war was just history. But Kang Tae remembered every moment, every decision, every person who had died under his command. The Vrex made one critical mistake, Kang Tae told his students. They thought we were like the other species they conquered. They thought if they hit us hard enough, we would surrender. What they did not understand is that humans are different. We are stubborn. We adapt. And we never, ever give up. A young cadet raised her hand. Sir, if they attacked again today, would we win again? Kang Tae smiled. They will not attack again. They know what will happen if they do. And it was true. The Vrex had learned their lesson. Their empire was gone. Their worlds were peaceful now, monitored by the Terran Union to ensure they kept to the peace treaty. Young Vrex grew up learning about the human war as a cautionary tale. Do not attack Deathworlders. Do not underestimate species that have fought for survival. Do not assume victory before the battle is won. Admiral Han Bin commanded the Terran exploration fleet now. His job was to explore new star systems and establish peaceful contact with unknown species. He was perfect for the role. He knew how to fight, but he preferred to make friends. His fleet had discovered 12 new civilizations in the past decade. Each time, he approached with open hands and honest words. The reputation of humans preceded him. Some species were afraid at first, but Han Bin was patient. He showed them that humans could be fierce protectors, but also loyal friends. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Han Bin would tell new species. But you do not need to face it alone. The Terran Union stands ready to help those who need it. Dr. Yuna Park was now the head of the Galactic Science Council. Scientists from 40 different species worked under her direction. They shared knowledge, developed new technologies, and worked to make the galaxy a better place. Yuna had transformed her quantum weapons technology into peaceful applications. Quantum drives that let ships travel faster. Quantum power generators that provided clean energy. Quantum medical devices that saved lives. The same knowledge that had helped destroy the Vrex Empire now helped build a better galaxy. Science should serve life, not death, Yuna often said. But she kept the weapon blueprints locked in a secure vault. Just in case, Lieutenant Jin Huang was no longer a soldier. He led the Terran Rangers now, a peacekeeping force that protected emerging civilizations from predatory empires. His reputation had grown legendary. The Ghost of Seoul, they called him. The warrior who could appear anywhere and defeat any threat. But Jin was not interested in glory. He trained rangers from dozens of species, teaching them how to protect the weak and stand against bullies. Strength without compassion is tyranny, he taught them. We are strong so that others do not have to be afraid. Commander Wu Tae worked alongside his brother. Together, they had built the Rangers into the most effective peacekeeping force in the galaxy. They had stopped 3 wars before they started and rescued hundreds of thousands of people from various disasters. The 2 brothers were different. Jin was quiet and intense. Wu was cheerful and outgoing. But they worked together perfectly. Like 2 halves of a whole, Hai Choi was the intelligence. director for the Terran Union. Nothing happened in the galaxy without her knowing about it. She had built a network of informants and allies that spanned hundreds of worlds. Potential threats were identified and neutralized before they became actual problems. But Hai did not just watch for enemies. She also looked for opportunities to help. When a colony was struggling, she would make sure aid arrived. When a species was having internal problems, she would quietly provide advice. She was the unseen hand that guided the Terran Union toward peace. Eun Kim had become the first human Secretary General of the Galactic Council. It was an incredible achievement. A species that had only discovered faster than light travel 30 years ago now led the most important political body in the galaxy. Eun had fought hard for the position. Many older species thought humans were too young, too aggressive, too dangerous. But she proved them wrong. Under her leadership, the Council had resolved more disputes and prevented more wars than ever before. Humans learned an important lesson from the Vrex, Yoon said in her inaugural speech. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We will be strong, yes, but we will also be fair, kind, and wise. That is how you build a lasting peace. Narration had returned to engineering, but now she built things that helped rather than destroyed. Her construction company designed space stations, colony habitats, and terraforming equipment. Her work employed thousands of people from dozens of species. She had become wealthy from her success, but Nari lived simply. Most of her money went to charities and relief organizations. I survived the war, she said. Many did not. I owe it to them to make sure their sacrifice meant something. Dr. Rena Lee founded the Interspecies Medical Corps, an organization of doctors and nurses from across the galaxy. They went to disaster zones, war-torn regions, and poor colonies, providing medical care to anyone who needed it. Rena had saved tens of thousands of lives during the war. In the decades since, she had saved hundreds of thousands more. She was nominated for the Galactic Peace Prize 3 times and won it twice. But she never attended the ceremonies. She was always too busy working. Medicine does not care about politics or species, Rena would say. Pain is pain. Suffering is suffering. My job is to help, nothing else. On Earth, a massive memorial stood in the center of rebuilt Sol. It was a black wall with 1.2 billion names carved into it. Every human who died in the war was remembered here. People came from all over Earth to find the names of their loved ones, to remember, to grieve, to honor. The inscription at the top was simple but powerful. They came for us with fire. We answered with fury. Let this stand as eternal warning. Earth bows to no one. The memorial had become a pilgrimage site for other species as well. They came to understand what humanity had endured. They came to remember that freedom had a cost. They came to honor the dead who had given the galaxy a chance at peace. On the 10th anniversary of the war's end, Kang Tae stood at the memorial. He came every year on this day. His students thought he came to honor the dead. That was part of it, but not all. He came to remember what war really was. Not glory and heroism, though those existed. War was death and suffering and loss. It was children without parents and cities turned to ash. It was 1.2 billion names on a wall dot. As Kang Tae read the names, a young Vrex approached him. The alien was nervous, his hands shaking. Vrex were rare on Earth now. Most were too ashamed to visit the world their empire had tried to destroy. Sir, the young Vrex said in careful human language, I came to apologize. For what my people did? Kang Tae looked at him. The Vrex was young, probably born after the war. He carried no blame for what happened. You were not there, Kang Tae said gently. You carry no guilt. But my people, we did this terrible thing. How can I not feel ashamed? Kang Te was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled. The question is not about shame. The question is, what will you do with the lesson? The young Vrex straightened. I serve in the Terran Rangers now. Under Commander Jin Huang, I protect others so no species suffers as humans did. Kang Te nodded with approval. Good. That is how we make sure it never happens again. Not by threatening, but by being ready. By being strong enough that others never dare, and kind enough that they never want to. The sun was setting over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It reminded Kang Te of the burning sky on the first day of the war, when the Vrex ships had blotted out the sun. But this sunset was different. This was peaceful, beautiful, full of promise. Do you think there will be another war? The young Vrex asked. Maybe, Kang Te said honestly. The galaxy is a dangerous place. But if war comes again, humanity will be ready. We learned how to fight. More importantly, we learned what we are fighting for. What is that? The right to exist. The right to live without fear. The right to reach for the stars and explore the universe. The Vrex tried to take that from us. They failed. Anyone else who tries will fail too. The young Vrex nodded and walked away, heading toward the Rangers' headquarters. Kang Te watched him go and felt a spark of hope. The Vrex had tried to exterminate humanity. Now their children served alongside humans to protect others. That was progress. Kang Te looked up at the darkening sky. Stars were appearing, one by one. Each star represented possibilities. New worlds. New friends. New discoveries. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of dangers. And if those dangers ever threatened Earth again, humanity would be ready. They had attacked Earth first. They had thought humans would be easy prey. They had learned the hard way that humans were survivors, fighters, and would never surrender. The galaxy knew the truth now. Earth was not just another planet. Humans were not just another species. They were Deathworlders who had clawed their way to the stars through blood and determination. The Vrex had made sure everyone knew. They had tried to destroy humanity and failed. Now their shattered empire served as a warning to every aggressive species in the galaxy. Touch Earth, and humanity will make sure you regret it. Not just for a year or a decade, but forever. As Kang Te walked away from the memorial, he thought about all the people whose names were carved into that wall. They had died so that others could live. Their sacrifice had bought humanity a place among the stars. He would make sure their deaths meant something. He would teach the next generation to be strong but not cruel, to be prepared but not aggressive, to defend but not dominate. That was the real lesson of the war. Strength alone was not enough. You needed wisdom too. The Vrex had strength but no wisdom, and it destroyed them. Humanity would do better. They had to. The galaxy was watching. The war was over. Earth had survived. And humanity would make sure no one ever dared to attack their home again.